The air was crisp at the family's lakeside cabin, a secluded retreat nestled deep in the woods. Alex loved it here. The gentle lapping of water against the dock and the towering pines made it a sanctuary for his soul. This trip had been his idea, a chance to escape the chaos of the city and reconnect with two of the most important people in his life. His father, David, and his boyfriend, Ryan. David, a man of quiet strength in his late 40s, had always been Alex's anchor. He had raised Alex single-handedly, teaching him resilience and compassion. Their bond was more than just familial. It was a partnership built on trust and unspoken understanding. Then there was Ryan, Alex's partner of 2 years. With his easy smile and warm presence, Ryan had quickly become the love of Alex's life. As the three of them unpacked groceries in the cabin's modest kitchen, Alex couldn't help but feel proud of how well his father and Ryan got along. This is what life should feel like, he thought, watching them exchange jokes while putting away bags of food. Ryan, you've outdone yourself with these steaks, David said, holding up a carefully wrapped package. A man after my own heart. Ryan grinned. Well, I figured if I'm trying to impress the most important man in Alex's life, I might as well start with his stomach. Alex chuckled, but something about the comment made his stomach twist. It was harmless, wasn't it? Yet the way David laughed, deep and unrestrained, felt oddly misplaced. Alex brushed it off as paranoia. After all, he had no reason to doubt either of them. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the trio settled on the porch with glasses of wine. The golden light bathed the scene in warmth, and Alex felt a rare sense of contentment. They talked about everything and nothing, memories from Alex's childhood, Ryan's work stories, and David's dreams of retiring to a place just like this. But beneath the laughter, Alex noticed fleeting moments that didn't quite sit right. When Ryan spoke, David's gaze lingered just a little too long. When David laughed, Ryan's hand rested briefly on his arm, as if sharing an unspoken understanding. Alex shook the thought away, chalking it up to the wine loosening his nerves. By the time the stars emerged, Alex was fighting exhaustion. He excused himself, leaving Ryan and David on the porch. Don't stay up too late, he teased, heading inside. I'll need help with breakfast tomorrow. Don't worry, Ryan replied, his voice steady. We'll be right behind you. As Alex's head hit the pillow, he felt a flicker of unease but dismissed it. The soft murmur of voices outside lulled him to sleep, the cabin silent except for the gentle crackle of the fire. For now, Alex rested, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. The night was serene, the kind of silence that made the cabin feel miles away from the rest of the world. Alex stirred in his bed, the faint creak of the porch floorboards pulling him from the edges of sleep. For a moment he stayed still, his mind hazy and unbothered, but then a ripple of awareness coursed through him. Voices, low, intimate murmurs broke the quiet, growing louder as he fully woke. He sat up, the soft glow of moonlight spilling through the window. The laughter outside was unmistakable. Ryan's warm chuckle mingled with his father's deeper tones. It wasn't unusual for them to talk, but there was something about the cadence, the subdued urgency in their voices, that felt wrong. Curiosity gnawed at him, pushing away his hesitation. Barefoot and cautious, Alex crept to the window. He peered out into the dimly lit yard, where the faint orange glow of the porch light illuminated the scene. There they were, Ryan and David, sitting closer than he'd ever seen them before. Ryan leaned in, his hand brushing David's forearm in a way that seemed anything but casual. The older man's face held an expression Alex couldn't immediately place, a mix of guilt and reluctant surrender. Alex's chest tightened, a cold dread seeping into his veins. He wanted to believe it was innocent, but his instincts screamed otherwise. His mind raced, desperately searching for an explanation that didn't confirm his worst fears. Then it happened. Ryan's hand lingered on David's shoulder before trailing down to clasp his hand. The gesture was tender, deliberate. David didn't pull away. Instead, he turned slightly, his head tilting toward Ryan's in a way that made Alex's breath catch. They were speaking, but Alex couldn't make out the words. It didn't matter. Their actions spoke louder than anything they could have said. A rush of heat flooded Alex's face, anger and disbelief clashing with a deep, aching sadness. He pressed a hand to his mouth, suppressing the sound of a sharp, involuntary gasp. He wanted to storm out there, to demand answers, to shatter the fragile bubble of secrecy they'd created. But he didn't. Alex staggered back from the window, his mind swirling with 1,000 thoughts he couldn't organize. Every step back to his bed felt heavier, like he was sinking into quicksand. Lying down, he stared at the ceiling, the shadows on the beams stretching and distorting as his thoughts spiraled. What had he just seen? Was it a momentary lapse, a misinterpreted gesture, or the confirmation of something darker? Sleep wouldn't come. Instead, he lay awake, listening to the voices fade and the porch door creak shut. Whatever this was, it wasn't over, and Alex knew he couldn't stay silent forever. For now, he buried his pain, bracing for what tomorrow would bring. The morning sun streamed through the cabin's windows, casting a deceptive warmth over the small dining area. Alex sat at the table, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee he hadn't touched. He could hear them moving around in the kitchen, David humming softly as he fried eggs, Ryan's laughter punctuating the clatter of dishes. The sound, once comforting, now grated against Alex's raw nerves. "Morning, sleepyhead," Ryan greeted, carrying a plate to the table. His smile was bright, almost too bright, as if he were compensating for something. Alex forced a tight smile, the words, "Good morning," catching in his throat. He couldn't bring himself to meet Ryan's eyes. David joined them moments later, sliding into his usual chair. "You look like you barely slept, son," he said, concern in his voice. Alex stared at his father, searching for a trace of guilt, some crack in the facade. But David's expression was maddeningly composed, his tone casual, even kind. The betrayal was there, yet it was hidden beneath layers of practiced normalcy. "I'm fine," Alex replied curtly, setting his mug down. He could feel the tension building inside him, threatening to spill over. The silence that followed was thick, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room. After breakfast, Alex pulled Ryan aside. They stood by the edge of the lake, the wind tugging at their clothes. Ryan's face was puzzled, concerned, as Alex struggled to find the right words. "What's wrong?" Ryan asked, tilting his head. Alex's chest tightened. "Last night," he began, his voice trembling. "I saw you. With my dad." Ryan's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before he composed himself. "Alex, it's not what you think," he said quickly. "We were just talking." "Don't," Alex interrupted, his voice sharp. "Don't lie to me. I saw the way you touched him. I saw the way he didn't stop you." Ryan's expression shifted from denial to something that looked like guilt. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, David's voice called out from the cabin. "Everything okay out here?" Alex turned to see his father approaching, his hands stuffed into his jacket pockets. The sight of him ignited a fresh wave of anger. "No, Dad. Everything is not okay," Alex snapped, his voice trembling with rage. "I know what you did. Both of you." David froze, his face paling. "Alex, let's not jump to conclusions. Don't patronize me." Alex's voice cracked. "You betrayed me. Both of you did. How could you?" The confrontation hung in the air, raw and unresolved. Ryan stepped forward, his voice pleading. "Alex, please, just let us explain." "Don't," Alex said, stepping back. "I don't want to hear it right now." Turning away, Alex felt tears sting his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. The only thing he knew for certain was that nothing would ever be the same again. The suitcase felt heavier than it should have as Alex lugged it to the trunk of his car. Each step away from the cabin, from the people he once trusted most, felt like pulling free from a trap, painful but necessary. The morning had been a blur of terse exchanges and stifling silences, yet Alex hadn't allowed himself to cry. Not here, not where their betrayal lingered in every corner. Ryan stood near the porch, hands shoved deep into his pockets, his face etched with regret. "Alex, please," he said, his voice breaking. "Let me explain. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It just happened." Alex turned to face him, his expression hard but not unkind. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything? You don't accidentally betray someone, Ryan. You made a choice. Both of you did." David appeared in the doorway, his face shadowed by grief. "Alex," he began, his voice low and uncertain, "I know I've hurt you. I can't undo what happened. But I need you to know I never meant to." "Stop," Alex said firmly, cutting him off. "You're my father. You were supposed to protect me, not destroy the only real relationship I've ever had. How do I even begin to forgive that?" David stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "I was selfish, Alex. I made a terrible mistake. But I love you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." For a moment, Alex faltered, the weight of his father's words pressing on him. He wanted to forgive, to cling to the family he'd always relied on. But the pain was too fresh, the wound too deep. "I can't stay," Alex said finally, his voice trembling but resolute. "I need time. I need space to figure out what's left of me after this." Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "And us?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Alex looked at him, the man he had loved so deeply, and shook his head. "There is no us, Ryan. Not anymore." Without another word, Alex climbed into his car and started the engine. As he pulled away from the cabin, he felt a bittersweet relief. The road stretched out ahead of him, a path toward healing, even if he wasn't sure where it led. The drive back to the city was quiet, giving Alex time to process the whirlwind of emotions. Betrayal, anger, heartbreak, but also the faintest glimmer of hope. He had survived this. Somehow he would keep surviving. Later that evening, sitting alone in his apartment, Alex gazed out at the city lights. The pain lingered, but so did the resolve. He wasn't defined by the actions of others. Slowly, he would rebuild himself piece by piece. As the night deepened, Alex whispered to the empty room, "I deserve better, and I'll find it." The words weren't just a promise. They were the first step forward.